Stream is live.
Hello, my name is Yngve Johansen. I'm the chair of Lokotech Group that is noted on the Euronext Growth. And today we are going to have a chat and a discussion of our company. We are going to share a lot of information. So first, a little bit about me. I'm a physicist. My background is working with technology for a different company noted on the Oslo Stock Exchange, but I'm also chairing for Lokotech Group. And Ola, Ben, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I mean, we are the co-founders, 2 out of 3 for Lokotech, the other subsidiaries of Lokotech Group. I'm the group CEO. My background is MSc BA, so business administration. Benjamin here is, I don't really have a title for you right now, Ben.
No. I'm just helping out. I'm helping out the CEO position given the current circumstance with both stuff in Norway and North America.
Yeah, business development. Yeah.
Just business development would probably be a more proper title.
Yeah.
Chief Relationship Officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so there have now been a long time where the company have been working very hard since the cap raise last year on the chip to develop it, finish it, and mature it to the point it is today, ready for takeoff. So reaching a milestone like that, it is a good point to good time for us to update the market. And there are so many questions. We have got a large outreach, many people with long lists of questions. The interest have been great. So we're going to take some time to chat about that, share our views on many things. And I will be moderating through that. So also a good thing is that we had the annual report that came out yesterday. So there's a lot of this session also intersects with that. So it's nice. Maybe I saw some of the questions that came in late was related to that. So we can touch on that. And finally, also there is an exercise period for the warrants. The people that participated in the rights issue last year, they can exercise the warrants quite soon, and we talk a little bit about that.
So before we begin, Obaid, can you verify that we are live and have viewers? Because we have a technical issue from one of our employees here.
Yeah, the webcast is, we have some technical issue with investorweb.com, but 150 people are currently watching through our other platform. So you can just continue, and I will fix in the background.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. So first thing, Ben. First question: will there be some kind of event, a party, when we are formally claiming to have been taped out?
Yes, we will be having an event that celebrates this forthcoming event that has been years in the making, and it'll be able to, be really nice to be able to finally celebrate this milestone that we've achieved after all these years, and to be able to communicate that and hang out and in an informal setting and speak about everything's been going on for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And just have fun and kind of let the hair down. So
yeah, no, that's good.
But that'll be coming up. I mean, after we officially have that, then we'll be planning that and be going straight to the party. So
yeah,
I'll get the information out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit uncertain how many people would show up, so we haven't booked the venue yet.
Yeah,
I think maybe we should get an indication before we do so.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we have some ideas on how to, ticket this thing, or make sure that we have some type of overview, because we don't want to be stuck with It's
Yeah.
too small a place.
But it will be really fun to meet a lot of these the shareholders, a lot of the guys, because you get over the years you'll get many questions. Some of them is almost like you feel you know them close, so it's going to be fun. All right, but over to the main meat of what we're doing in the company, and what would be really nice to talk about, and that can you say a little bit about the ASIC? It's dual purpose, dual function for Scrypt and AI, but can you dive into that a little bit more? What many people wonder about what is that product really?
Sure. I mean, I think the first time we publicly mentioned that the chip is dual purpose, at least in something like this, was Investor Day in 21. I mean, it's been a part of the design since inception, late 2020. But it's it started out as could this thing also do AI? Now maturing into a situation where we are pretty confident that the design, as it is, could be competitive in AI. Went from a nice to have to a really nice to have, and the market has grown significantly since we begun this journey. So I don't know. I'm not going to claim that we were forward thinking, but we're allowed to be lucky as well.
Yeah.
So we have high expectations of the AI side. We know that Scrypt functionality works. It's more mature, of course, than the AI part of the chip. It hasn't been tested in physical silicon, worth mentioning. But still, suddenly you open up a new business vertical that is a lot larger than the Scrypt market. So
At no extra cost either.
oh well. A bit more complicated development cycle, but
I mean, for the ASIC itself, though.
No.
So not producing a separate ASIC; it's all in the same package.
Yeah, I think a lot of the shareholders and other stakeholders have been thinking that this needs to be redesigned in its entirety to be competitive in AI, and I think that's the main takeaway from today. That AI is a large, fast-growing and complex market, but there are niches that this chip should be very well fit to fill.
Yeah,
it's a shortage of chips as well.
By the way, I remember I saw that on the Investor Day when on the Q&A session you mentioned it was like AI inferencing on the edge, and it's like well, now everybody talk about the AI inferencing, but then back then it was I'm not sure if people really grasp that. But so you're saying that the physical architecture is in place. You just need to boot it either for Scrypt hashing or you boot it for AI inferencing.
Yeah, that's an easy way to explain it, sure. We're also able to lock off the AI capabilities of Scrypt chips if you'd like to remove the limits of the price differentiation. I mean, AI chips are a lot more valuable per square millimeter than for Scrypt hashing. So that's a nice feature to know that people won't rip off chips of a hash blade and repurpose them for AI. But yeah, easy way you boot them in two different modes.
Yeah. Well, I also saw one is kind of a funny thing because when people talk about agentic AI, then I saw one of these guys in what's his name, the guy on talking about agentic economy, about all the microtransactions that will happen between the various agents and all this stuff, and that will actually be crypto or blockchains. But anyway, I think it's funny that so we have a chip that basically it can think it's AI, and also then you can boot it for it can actually participate in the blockchain network. So and it talks about that.
Sure. I mean, we elaborated a bit in the annual report as well, and I mean this experiments that Coinbase and I'm sure others as well are doing or conducting right now could indicate that blockchain technology is the right catalyst. We always talk about blockchain being the right thing for microtransactions and so forth, but adding AI into the mix and having these agents operate to your best interest on your behalf autonomously, that's a bit of a next generation development.
Well, it'll be very exciting to see how that grows as well, because that's just a new industry that's going to be popping up and for crypto.
Yeah.
And what's good about the cryptos that we're attacking, the crypto algorithm, the majority of them have extremely low transaction fees. So, and that outperforms, Bitcoin, which is more or less a storage of, wealth rather than a token that can be utilized.
Take one example though. Like I think the energy market, at least in Norway now, is a very hot topic. Power is expensive and all this. What if your smart home was able to regulate itself and settle with the best offer from all the various different companies that can sell you power in terms of seconds? You don't really need to worry then about being overcharged. You don't need the AI that checks your invoice against what you're actually paying your bank account. You need to manually type any kid numbers. It's taken care of.
And then they can hash in the idle time. So no, but that's
sure. I mean, you can self-regulate it so that it hashes when it's profitable on your exact power bill that minute.
Yeah, but so with these two features, it's fair to say that the maturity of the Scrypt that is much higher than the AI bit.
Sure. I mean, it's been tested in silicon. We know that the engines inside the chip that does the calculation and hashes the algorithm works. So combine that with all industry standard checks that we thoroughly went through yesterday and into the night period of today. We're confident that technical risk, development risk is done. There's some engineering risk left.
But everybody has the engineering. We wouldn't go into production.
Yeah,
sure, it's unavoidable.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, the software development necessary for AI is probably in a different scale than to operate the
Sure.
Oh,
I mean,
for
for our product, you want to develop or should I?
No, go ahead.
So we don't have it right here. It used to be here, but typing up the software required for a Raspberry Pi, or in our case, a BeagleBone, to talk to the ASICs is a relatively simple task compared to what's required to commercialize the AI functionality of the chip. Us 5 people from Norway, we're not going to be able to cover the global demand of edge AI inferencing chips. You need not only the distribution, but you need also a software development kit, a kit that our clients again use to develop their own applications to be used on with our chip. And that's a monumental task compared to writing some relatively simple communication software for a controller.
But well, with that in place, I mean, the good news is, I mean, we do have preliminary numbers from the simulations, which we'll be releasing at a later date when the time is right. But we'll also, once we actually have the physical silicon, we'll be able to, within the first month, be able to test what kind of tops that it has. But that's not really like a good number to run with, because it really depends on what AI algorithm that you're running on. So that will vary from algo to algo.
Yeah. When we get back to there are also more questions on this AI bit, so we run back on that a little bit later. So but then okay, so you have your ASIC now, design is done, and it's delivered to our partners, and moving soon to the mask house. There was one question, it was like, when is that happening?
Well, it's a matter of practicalities, I suppose, and a feedback loop coming back from the foundry that the design file has been received and is complete. It's a huge database, right? So you don't want to risk a single bit being wrong in the transfer as well.
Yeah.
So it's verifying that
a handshake there too, also. Yeah.
So I think a couple of days turnaround from the whole chain is to be expected. It's a weekend now. I don't know, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, but it's just a matter of turning the cranks and getting.
Okay, so it's really.
Also, yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
But what's kind of good about it, and since we're not going directly to global and we're using an IC assembly partner, it helps out a lot because we do our own internal DRC checks. Then our IC assembly partner, who's renowned, they do their own DRC, and then they hand it after that back and forth, which we've already done. They hand that over to global. So that's basically where we're at right now. Everything's kind of out of our hands. So
then, but talk a little bit then on, so basically now we have delivered design, we are happy and in that regard, and we are waiting on a soon confirmation on formal to claim tape outs. But from there, tell a little bit about the timeline, what's going to happen then, and how quickly can you get to scaling up the production and actually start to deliver some volumes?
Sure, I'm trying to think how in detail I should go, but there's a lot of interaction now between us, the IC assembly partners, and global back and forth, and they want to ensure manufacturability. That's what the topic is now. And what it means is that we might get either a strict requirement or more of an advice to increase manufacturability. There's spare cells and gates in the design so that it can be done without going too far back in the design loop. It's call it an ECO change. We go in with a surgical needle and fix something, maybe add a dummy metal piece just to make sure that the silicon isn't too weak. Has to correct the stiffness, for instance.
Yeah.
So that's why we were told, that it's difficult to say how long the type of dry run phase is. It also revolves around the complexity of the chip and size and such. But we've been dry running several parts since December already, so it's not like we think that something unexpected should happen. That's why I'm confident on a lower timeline rather than a.
Yeah, but the mask set, would you say that the mask set and
what happens then is that
testing and how much time is? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we have a prioritization slot at the mask house or mask shop. So what they do, they take this design and they produce, masks, stencils or layers that you use ultraviolet light through a prism to, shadow out the circuits in the different layers of the silicon that ultimately becomes the chip.
Yeah.
It's about a 3-month fabrication of the mask set, I expect. And then the first so-called Bota wafers is being processed by the foundry. From the first virgin wafer goes into the machine until it gets out is about a 3-month time. And it's a process that is difficult to speed up. You're heating metal into a very precise manner, and you can't really, take any shortcuts on physics, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
We can buy further prioritization to reduce it a couple of weeks. But the first engineering wafers are prioritized anyways, so it's not like we develop too much on that topic. And the first bolt will then determine if we need to do any corrections on the mask set before we continue. But if the probe test goes well and things function, then we just continue to produce.
Yeah. So then basically, it sounds like you're saying so So from here, we are talking Q3, Q4.
Around the Q3, Q4, the chips have to be
Chips in hand,
the
and
wafers have to be sliced and diced, packed, shipped back and forth. There's some shipping delays in there as well, but that Q3, Q4.
so then chip in hand, and then you start to put together your products, like this guy, miners. So first feature you're going after is Scrypt, right?
Sure. I mean, we have clients that have been patiently waiting now for years. So, but some of those first chips will also be diverted into testing and benchmarking of the AI and also, batch sampling and such.
Okay. All right. So let's turn it a little bit around. There were some of the shareholders, they wanted to know more about ambitions and what is likely, what can we achieve in terms of market share. Have you seen any indication? What are your general thoughts on that? I mean, Ben, you're generally bullish on that product. So
I'm extremely bullish. I've been bullish since we started this. It's just taken longer than we expected. But no, given our efficiency gains off the current iteration of our ASIC, we're still beating the competition by, roughly 50%. And we are on a legacy node, which is that's a huge benefit to us because we can take the same design down, which is a very quick, compared to what we just went through, a very quick turnaround when it comes to bringing another ASIC design on a lower node, which is very good. And it allows you to have even more efficient ASIC and more density of the transistors, and you just get more out of it. But since we're there and we have that efficiency, we're basically pushing anybody that's not going to be operating our machines they have to compete on power pricing. And since there's already been a race to the bottom with power pricing, we really don't see that being a competitive advantage right now, both geopolitically and or like for the location as well, to be operating in a politically stable climate. So to me, I see us being in extremely good position, especially after we get the ASICs in hand and turn on the machine and show it running, because it will sell itself. And once that happens, the capital need to produce will be very easy.
We've seen a couple of examples where a competitor or a new entrant has entered and taken a significant portion of the market, like 20% or so, like overnight.
Yeah.
It is a market that's one huge incumbent, right? So I think even at parity, the Western Hemisphere would appreciate a Western-produced product.
Oh, yes.
Especially with our tariffs in the US and so forth. So, confident in it. But still, depends on how you want to define the market size, right? If you're thinking only about hash rate, then I am 100% convinced that you're not taking the full market because, people have spent money and invested into machinery, and they have, as you said, aligned themselves with a low power cost. So there will be competitive hardware out there still hashing.
Yeah.
But if you do find the new sales, then I think you'll see more of a shift in terms of percentages rather than measuring.
As you can see in the annual report too, we highlighted it there as well. You can see the benefit of having an efficient machine, because when the market's capitulated and the underlying asset pricing decreased for all the assets, hash rate fell off a cliff, because if they're not that profitable, they just turn the machine off. So there's about 25% of the total Scrypt hash rate collapsed right after and or during December. And if like say for instance we already had our ASICs running, you're not turning your machine off because you're still profitable. And that's what's good about having efficient machines. You can run during the bad times and you can run during the good times. And you don't have to be worried about the asset pricing of Litecoin, Dogecoin, or all the other merge mine coins with it.
Yeah.
So
it is a market with a bit of a weird dynamic, and you can quote me on this. To me, it's the most competitive market in the world, being a miner, because you can't really change the pie size. You can only compete about the same pie against everyone else.
Yeah. So whether the total rate is growing or going down, it's the same. So I mean, you're competing for the same amount of reward, basically. So,
and most of the time, at least for close to every competitor out there, you have the same equipment to compete with.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you see the when we start to deliver, is the constraint demand, or do you think it is production? How quickly can you?
I would say both. I mean, the demand is going to be significant where we will not be able to meet the demand, I believe. But the production, I mean, the one thing that limits us is how many wafers can we produce each month. But what's good in this industry is everybody pays 100% up front, and then they wait for their units. So we'll be able to use the sales to pay for those wafer orders and the components and the manufacturing and the assembly of everything, and to get that to the end user. So we won't have to be raising capital or anything at that point after we have the ASIC in hand and show it. So,
may I pitch in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's not going to be production or demand. I think it's going to be reach, and how quickly you can recycle the capital and put in the orders.
Yeah.
Go to market execution that will probably be the limiting factor, I think.
Yeah. One guy, he asked partnerships. Is that something that can accelerate growth?
Oh, 100%. Because I mean, like the first wafers that come out of the foundry are the most expensive. I mean, especially the being engineering and stuff. I mean, they're very expensive. But to reach economy of scale, it is good to bring in a capital partner. And I could actually, we've discussed this internally, that I could see us having like a JV where we have a fixed margin over cost, but then we set up an operation to where we share the hash rate. And then, you can pay back the capital partner first, and then, we're benefiting from the hash rate that's already on. Because this is me personally, not the company, but I would like to see us take between 8 to 15% of the total hash rate on the Scrypt algo. And that is a good cash flow for the company, just to be able to grow and to continue to explore other avenues. But also, it allows us to be a good strategic partner for the industry, because we'll be extremely transparent about it. Being a public company, everybody's going to know what's plugged in, what's our hash rate, how much we're earning. And like a lot of the other competitors, I mean, everything's hidden. You don't know how much hash rate they actually control. And we don't want to be like that. We want to be very open and honest about what is going on and what's our portion of the cake that we control.
I think it also fits very well into this power hosting pilot that we are now conducting. I think a partnership could accelerate it, but it's also something that we can distribute widely based off of that type of a platform. If you add on a marketplace on top where buyers can resell in between each other, you don't really need one giant to partner up with you. We can install equipment for our cost, resell it, and they can resell it to each other, and can earn off of the hosting part as well as the pool fee part, as well as the machinery. And we can also be a counterpart of buying machinery back and reselling it if we would like to take those type of capital risks. So it's about creating that whole ecosystem under one umbrella. And if we're successful in getting one of the larger existing miners on board, then I'll be very happy. But I think 3 to 5 years, it will look more different than just a marriage with some huge guy.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of funny you say that, because one guy was actually, he asked, and it's maybe something for later in the session, but since you touched on it, so 3 to 5 years, what is your perspective for Lokotech Group? What do you think you're moving? What do you see we are doing? Will it be, like trying to develop a whole, like under umbrella with a bunch of synergies and a lot going on, or?
I mean, we're already in the trajectory, right? To develop that type of a ecosystem for clients and miners alike. But in that time frame, we're probably also looking at the release of a second generation, perhaps a shaved off version where edge AI inferencing is the main topic. There's no Scrypt hashing functions at all.
Do you think it will be on a lower node when you do that?
I think so. If we have a sales success, then sure. We've no reason to not go for the most advanced thing then. It's capital intensive though. Really capital intensive. But Intel is talking about this. Angstrom-sized transistors, right? You don't even calculate in nanometers on what their future plans are, and like at that point you could integrate it into almost anything because the cost per die per physical chip would be low at volume. You need so little of it. So I don't want a smart socket in your shoe. Sure, why not? Or your tire or your light bulb or.
But then, the Lokotech group, 3 to 5 years from now, it can be a lot of interesting stuff that we are moving into, and also with next gens, basically. But then, what's your part in? Somebody asked, what's Ben's role in, with the US and business development that was mentioned.
It is more and more for business or new business development. But we've already kind of picked our manufacturing for pick and place, and they have facilities all across the world. And we picked this company not only because they have facilities across the world, but it's more of a strategic decision given today's geopolitics. With the tariffs and everything else, we can produce where we sell almost. And the U.S. being a large part of that, and me being an American, it makes it extremely easy for me to set up a company, go there, get everything in place, and not have to worry about anything. Because that's what I did before I moved to Norway. But it makes it a lot easier and seamless for a citizen to go there and do something than not. So, and this includes both, the mining aspect of it and potentially the AI. So,
but that is moving. Then this is touching a little bit on what was mentioned when we talked through the timeline. But next big milestone now, because now we signed out the design, it left to the assembly partner, and we have basically tape out very soon. But what is the next big milestone now that people should be aware of in, let's say, in 12, 24 months?
Just to kind of, illustrate what that could look like, I think a mask set has been, completely fabricated and first wafers are being processed. That's a milestone that indicates the timeline precision at least. Then probe test wafers are being tested right after fabrication. Will give an indication of yield and
so probe test. What is that?
So you have a socket that you put the wafer in, and you probe every single die on the whole wafer, right, on the precise spot, so that you can ensure that the die is functional. So you don't waste the time and dies that are non-functional.
So die basically a chip. That's
Well, die is the integrated circuit that goes into what you call a chip. You put a die into a package, and then you have it. So
it's basically a pre-chip check. You're checking a small ASIC on a huge wafer rather than doing the slicing, dicing, and back grinding and packaging before testing it.
So you will basically quite quickly get to know then if these dies are going to deliver as
Correct.
we want, and then second thing, the yield per wafer.
Second in the yield, and you get a starting yield, you can more accurately measure how you think that yield will develop over the amount of wafers that you're processing, right?
Okay. So what do you do if you're unhappy with the yield? I mean,
Well, I mean, typically the yield, you have to wait till about the first 1,000 wafers, because that's when they start getting it down to about the most approximate yield that you can get after 1,000 wafers.
okay.
You reach prime yield,
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
I don't know, 1,000, maybe less, maybe more, but
It's roughly 1,000, yeah.
but for every boat they recalibrate, and they can give you a curve, expect to see a curve, right? And if you're unhappy with that, you can attempt to respin or replace, reproduce some of the layers that for some reason have an imprecision or something that affects the yield. So there are some engineering efforts to be done also to increase the yield figures. The wafer probe also has a very, very important functional thing that's aside of yield, which is this buff security feature.
Yeah.
So quite incredible, but on the chip, it's a circuit that understands the small impurities in the wafer, and at wafer probe, you're able to extract that fingerprint or that signature, and that will be required to communicate with the chip. So if you don't have the key, the chip is worthless.
Okay. So this sounds like a nice security feature. It's not very easy to copy this then, I would say.
Yeah, well, correct. I mean, it's not easy to copy, but you have to have the key to be able to understand anything, in which everything will be flashed on from us and under our control. So we won't be, handing the keys out by any means.
Yeah, this sounds extremely important.
Well, and plus it also protects us from people to be able to switch it to a AI use. And like Ola was talking about earlier, where you can basically just remove the chips, and then instead of having a chip that's worth, $12 to $18, you have a chip that could be worth, 90 to 120. So
don't take those figures for
just take
figures though. But,
Oh, no.
But I mean, that's just kind of the give and take of what the industry is offering right now.
Yeah, it complicates manufacturing a bit though, because you gotta make sure that the right key for the right chip ends up at the right hash plate.
But I mean, fortunately, we partner up with an extremely competent company here in Norway, and they have some of the tightest testing requirements in the world.
Sure.
And massive companies are using them, especially even in the state side, they're using them. So they got full control, and everything is going. All the testing equipment that we've had developed for the hash blade and the double barrel, and the hash blade it goes in the single barrel. So that doesn't really adjust the form factor any, but it's going extremely well. So
okay, but let's switch it around a little bit then to something slightly different. There are, coming then some there came questions on what about, or are we sufficient capitalized for the coming period of these milestones we need to go through, and the commercialization, and there was also a question on what's our strategy on commercialization when we are moving out. But first thing, are we financed for this?
Sure. I mean, you can see in the annual report as well. I think the cash balance at the end of the year for the group was 37 million, pretty much on the dollar.
Yeah. On the NOK.
yeah,
The NOK.
Yeah.
Language error there. So I'm comfortable with the liquidity position that we have right now. We are well capitalized for the investment that's required to get this chip into commercialization. We're still negotiating a little bit on how much throughput we'd like to see from the first testing equipment, the probe testing and following testing equipment. So it's not finalized yet, but it's not a dangerous figure for us to carry right now. And then you have the supporting cash flow from PowerPool, which makes it easier to conserve capital if for some reason that would be required.
Yeah. But PowerPool now, they are looking for their own growth, right?
Sure.
So
I mean, we understood that we didn't really need that. Sorry, I was a bit disturbed here.
No, well, there's a comment. Where can we buy the Lokotech hoodie?
okay, yeah. No, but
Merch shop, huh?
Yeah, new merch shop.
Back to PowerPool. We did late last year commit to the exploring this power hosting thing that's been brewing for a while. We found the right site in northern Norway and got the job done. A little bit delayed from China and shipment, but anyways. Therefore, we reinvested into growth, and we might continue to do so depending on if we find strategies that doesn't necessarily tie up capital as well. I think the Soup for Sats is a very good example of community empowered marketing campaign that paid itself back in less than a month. Intro the same month we were running it actually. So. More of that and more hash rate. I mean, we're trying to at least double it, right? For the most important algorithms.
Okay, no, but that's good then. But back to for Lokotech. So, and also we talked about coming milestones. You mentioned then, but to be a little bit specific, the closest one you can think of, well, tape-out of course, which is days away. But then for the probe testing, you mentioned that as a big thing, and so when are we talking about 2, 3, 5? What is the time?
If we add 3 months worth of fabrication of the mask set with 3 months worth of production of the chips or ASICs or dies, if you like, that's when you get the probe test, and that happens before you slice and dice and pack and then put it into products or prototypes for testing the AI. So it become before you get the final answer of efficiency, how does it operate under real life strain. It can be like people are mining in the desert, right? So how does it work at 40 degrees with the liquid cooling versus how does it boot in northern Norway at negative 35 degrees Celsius, right?
Yeah, but to the probe test, well,
half a year,
from now, and that and that is and going there also then for are we financed and for this. The answer is yes, but how? What other remaining capex commitments are there to do? You mentioned some
I mentioned this
testing equipment, for example.
Well, I mean that's the only remaining investment. Capital expenditure wise, at least. I mean. If we're bold and the market turns around and we want to produce more wafers quicker, we could always, bind up more capital in wafer orders. But I don't really see that as being important to consider at this point in time.
It was good to get then the probe test done and observe what we are dealing with. Yeah. All right. So then, since we talked on financing and the finances and remaining capex, let's talk a little bit about because there were some questions on what's your running burn rate or if you should say SG&A OPEX run rates. You want to comment? Just you don't have to be too specific, but comment a little bit on that.
I've been quoted on this before, and I stand by it also today that we are able to operate the mother company cost-wise for around 1 million a month, give or take. I wouldn't call it burn rate because we're not burning cash. We're also earning money in PowerPool mining. So that's the SG&A part of it. And even though February was a bit of a tough month for PowerPool, March is now record high, and we're pacing a lot higher now than what we were doing at the end of the year. So,
well, if you compare that to H2, for example,
H2 25 was about $2,400 something, so about $1,000 more per day.
1,000 euros.
Euros.
Yeah.
Euros. Sorry.
Okay.
It's about 3,500.
That's nice. So even the price is low now. We are back sort of in. Yeah, it's promising. And this is because of difficulty or the total hash in the market, or
the difficulty has decreased, so it increases the reward for the remaining miners that have stayed online.
Okay.
Yeah, and the crypto sentiment for market prices has also taken a little bit of a upswing. And it's also continuing innovations. Add on more merge mine coins into the Scrypt OX POW ecosystem. That there's more incentive without any added costs. And supporting a new algorithm like Ethash. It's not a large contributor now, but if that becomes a popular algorithm, or we are able to steal market share, that will also increase that run rate without increasing our operation costs.
Okay.
I mean, if you take a look at the figure, and I mean, operationally, PowerPool is spending more now than what it was in the beginning, but a lot of it is investing into future growth. You can't really balance sheet in those activities, but that's why you see the operational costs as a factor of the revenue being increasing. I mean, the EBITDA figures are still above 90%, so it's
okay. All right.
And then, well, I mean, just to add into PowerPool, I mean, it's going to have a bunch of organic growth because, I mean, just so if the investors don't know, a lot of the equipment that you buy comes preloaded with a mining pool on it. And a lot of that is, Bitmain's own mining pool. But what's good about ours is we'll be preloading all of our equipment with PowerPool.
Preloading, what do you mean?
We're going to be putting your normal pool uses, like it'll already be loaded.
So when you just put it in the socket, fire it up, it will automatically
I'll have like PowerPool as there. So it's not only be marketing, but people will understand that maybe this works better with this pool. And
they can change that, but initially...
they can change it, but it'll be a preset default pool that is on the miner. Okay,
but that is a pretty strong synergy.
Oh, 100%.
You got to enter PowerPool or sign up, create a user, and put in your address.
Yeah, I did already. So.
I'm saying the client that received this.
All right, no, but that's great stuff. But then so you have PowerPool, you have the power hosting. You once mentioned the power. Also in the annual report, I read something about PowerBridge, and So, any comments on that?
Sure. I mean, PowerBridge is a fleet management system for large miners, basically. One of the main benefits is that you ease operations of a large amount of mines at the same time. You also are able to have a local approval mode in your data center. So you're reducing lag, you're reducing the amount of stale shares, which can be quite significant if you're rurally located or have, for some reason, connectivity issues to wherever your pool server is located.
Yeah.
And that's a direct cost, right? It's work that you're paying for in terms of efficiency, but you never get any rewards for it.
But are all the pools doing the same, or is it?
No, not that we know of.
So this is like
Well, I'm relatively sure the Marapool does it for marathons.
100%.
I don't think there's any.
But it's like a retention sort of initiative.
It's a retention too. I mean, they wouldn't want to leave the pool if they are actually benefiting from PowerBridge as well. I mean, as you mentioned, for the stale shares, it reduces stale shares by, how much is it? Like 10x? Network usage by like 200?
And net bandwidth is about a factor of 255.
Yeah. So it's a significantly benefit, especially if your stale shares are over at 1%. And during these market pullbacks, you're literally leaving money on the table, and there's no reason for that. So we should it should be fairly well received when people take the chance and plug it in.
Okay.
So if you're going to mine over satellite, for instance, it would be a necessity.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. So since we are now, wandering around a little bit on the umbrella you mentioned earlier, so that I know a different thing, and it was also the annual report, PSU, that is, under pilot testing now. You haven't talked about that in a couple of years. I mean,
It's a while. It's been a while.
What's going on there? You can just mention it quickly. I'm sure people.
Well, you're basically, the Smart PSU basically is a module that plugs in front of your actual miner, where you can actually physically control the unit, hard stop, on and off, and then also it's a data measurement too. So typically in a hosting facility, people just have to ballpark the number or amount of power they used. Well, with these units, you can actually extract the exact data for that miner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's quite interesting about it, because we've already had a successful pilot test of these. We've sent, I think, roughly about 5 of them to a mining facility in the US, and they're all working extremely well. And 2 of those he actually required for fans. So he wanted to actually be able to control his fans as well.
Okay.
So, and I thought that was quite interesting, because a lot of people never really measured the power that, wanting to actively seek out and measure the amount of power that their fans are consuming locally, and to be able to control them as well.
It solves the problem of accurately billing clients.
Yes,
100%. Personally prefer our system. We don't actually bill anyone an invoice, but you subtract it from the revenue. I think that's one step further in terms of integration. But sure, we've been developing for a while. We've tested various iterations of it, and we decided to do a standalone smart unit rather than supply the power supply as well.
Yeah. There's too many different power supplies to pinpoint down. That just raises the cost significantly, and you're fixed to that miner. But this way you can load it up to any miner just buying the correct plug, whether it be a C20 or a C14 or a P14. There's a bunch of different plugs.
Yeah, and different miners have different PSUs, as I said. But some of them uses double lines, right? 2 plugs as well. We're now looking to iterate one more time for one that's planned to be used with hydro miners out there. Right now it doesn't support that amount of wattage, so we want to beef it up for that model. But,
but really, the iteration process is complete, and we're excited to get hopefully get initial order from this potential client and go from there.
Yeah.
So
if it is small, then you can say it there, but if it's too big, then it must be made separate. Okay, but then leaving that, then you have plenty of going on. There's an outlook for a lot of exciting results coming in. You have growth in PowerPool, and generally optimistic, but the upcoming warrants, the exercising of the warrants in the capital that will be raised as a result of the rights issue last year. So that is coming up. The exercise period is 1st of April to 15th of April. Somebody asked, is that necessary, or are you financed without that?
As Ola mentioned, all our projects we're all comfortable where we're at and fully financed. Unless we wanted to go out on a limb and do something new, then we'd need fresh dry powder. But for what we have going on now, we don't necessarily need the capital.
Okay.
I think also it should be seen in perspective of us, winding down unprofitable or unscalable business verticals, liquidating hardware that's now not longer required. We're looking at also offloading some of the properties in the south. So those capital requirements, do we find a partner? Do we outright sell it? Also help out on liquidity. Maybe more importantly on the narrowing down the focus of the company.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I noticed that that also in the annual report. I liked it quite much, the way that you do the testing. I'm working myself with to mature technology quite a bit. That's my job, and I like your approach on where you're doing a small pilot. You test and see does it work, and then you make an opinion about how is this scalable business wise, and then if it doesn't, then you just pull the plug on that, right? So I think there are plenty of examples also in Norway where people are just moving full front into something with high risk and no considerations like that. So personally, I that's something I like. But this is the way you plan to continue, I guess. That is your method.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the fail fast strategy or project management, right? And in the MPW, I think serves as an example of us using that type of mentality.
Yes.
I mean, we had a competitor that blew about $30 million on the complete tape out. No MPW, doesn't function. Yeah, if you have the grain, sure, why not? But
well, I mean, just to tap into that and why this tape out was so good to me, being one of the founders, and I suspect also we spent a lot of time validating this ASIC and as much possible time to make sure that there'll hopefully be a first pass run in ASIC, because this is our first product coming to market. I mean, typically the large guys, it is a time constraint, but they have the capital to burn 30 to 50 million on a tape out and not care if they just learn from their mistake and then make the iteration change and go go to the next iteration. But we want to make sure that this is a success, and we put all our effort into it to do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have two more questions. One more from a shareholder, and then one from myself, because it would be nice just to hear a little bit about the journey. I mean, you guys started out a long time ago. I went through chiplets and small-scale testing of prototypes, etc., and scaled up, and now you have a commercial ASIC that just finished the design, basically. So I'd like to hear more about that story. But first, the last one from shareholders. There's one guy that's asking, if you can talk a little bit, what's the potential of Scrypt versus AI? I mean, market-wise, the size. Do you have any?
I mean, I don't know. It's quite hard to answer. I would say the best thing is just on the size is we get to go after both. I mean,
Sure.
I mean, for the Scrypt side, you don't have any warehouse risk because you can just plug it in to be profitable, which is a huge benefit to manufacturing ASICs at this efficiency level. But then the AI aspect, we can't really comment on it until, we've benchmarked.
Yeah, but I mean the market. I mean
the market's going to be
size,
massive, absolutely massive for the inferencing side, I believe.
I think it's about 10x the size of the Scrypt.
No,
that's what it projected to be.
Yeah, but it's only going to go more because everybody wants to localize their compute. And I've been a big believer in Fred Thiel's the belief that a localized compute is going to be everything, to where you have like a small compact immersion tank with a ton of inferencing ASICs in it to be able to do all your local compute and then send the result out. That way you don't have any data transfer going in the cloud, and that's expensive. I know large oil companies, rendering 3D seismic data spend massive amounts of money on that. And if you localize it, then you're going to be saving that money. And I think that's where a lot of the localized compute is going to come from.
Sure. I think that's one out of two narratives for AI. I think the only narrative that is still being talked about is this immense requirement for power, right? But they don't consider the two alternatives. Either you go back to scratch, redefine how AI should be modeled, all the way back to the 80s. When we're talking alternative methods, you have the settling machine, for instance, an invention from Setslin, developed primarily actually in Norway in the University of Agder. Or you go for a model arithmetic, you skip out on regular arithmetics, but you use a different kind of math to reduce the overall power need for large cloud AI operators. Or you do push the compute from these massive data centers into the edge of the networks, as you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there are some very long shots out there, like the quasi-adiabatic stuff, to reduce your power usage 90 to 98%.
Sure.
But those are long shots right now.
Yeah. Then, but I must say it's quite remarkable then, because talking about the size and thinking, knowing, hearing this from you in 2021, I mean, you are being quite lucky with the momentum of the AI inferencing business, then I would say, because here you are with the capabilities in your own chip. Well, we don't have the silicon yet, but sign is out the door. So,
I mean, that was kind of like
but it is also about trying to position yourself to become lucky, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even from the beginning when we started this process, like we wanted a Scrypt ASIC. We tested the Scrypt ASIC to make sure they could work with AI, because actually, I mean, we not only wanted to diversify our product in a single package, but being in the crypto industry, we also wanted to save ourselves, because it was quite hostile back in the day. I mean, governments were out ban this, China ban all that stuff. And one thing that I personally wanted was, well, if they ban it, it's good because we have AI.
Yeah.
So it has been a process that we've strategically looked at for years and protect ourselves from hostile governments towards the blockchain industry.
Yeah.
And that all goes down back to the form factor of why we want the hash blade. Well, I mean, if you have a country that bans it, you're still operating within your normal power usage as well, being 144 watts. You plug in the hash blade, no one's going to know. They're going to have to go around and make sure that everybody's, using a hash blade. And that would just that's not fiducially responsible for a government to do that. But if you're burning a 5,000 watt, machine, that's very easy to find out, those guys are mining. So we want to keep up the decentralization and be best for the community in the blockchain industry, but we also want to protect ourselves if this industry got hostile. Luckily, it's went the other way, and blockchain is extremely well accepted now.
Yeah. Everybody, like speaking of agentic economy, and it will be part of the mix. That's how microtransactional, that's how you will transfer money in the future. So, but I think it was great, and actually, and this I guess people also can figure out if they go and use the various AI engines out there and search to learn more about it. There's similarities in the architecture between Scrypt and the AI blocks distributed out on a chip and how you run it. But a second thing is that the AI part of the chip is because of the energy efficiency of that is that you are really looking for within mining or within hashing. That will also the AI bit will also benefit from that. Is that correct assessment from me, or? The energy,
a little bit. Sure, energy efficiency in AI is also a big thing, but I think it's more important in inferencing setting than in a data center setting, right? Right now, it's just a matter of I don't know, maybe 5 or 10% of the anticipated power that AI will consume is you don't have the energy to even continue that development. So something has to happen.
Yeah.
And the lead time for a nuclear plant is a lot longer than a GPU.
Yeah.
But sure, if you're going to use this product in any realistic environment, it's run on a battery, for instance, power efficiency is important.
Yeah. Definitely.
But there's so many various niches, right? You have some applications would probably require a huge throughput of data. That might not be our chip. Some use cases require a very high degree of precision. For instance, you don't want a self-autonomous driving car to make a mistake.
No. But maybe you want to have it on. Maybe you want to have it on a valve somewhere in the oil industry.
Yeah, for instance, a very limited amount of energy available.
Yeah,
then it's important.
And I know actually, because that I'm coming from oil and gas, but when you're putting quite simple features down the hole in the completions of smarter wells, you might have a battery pack that's 50 meters long just to operate for a few years. So energy efficiency is very important. So,
but also cost per unit is important.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to take this chair. You want to make a smart chair, right? AI powered office chair.
Yeah.
It's going to be ergonomic correct to you at all times. So it reads your body language, your position, your weight distribution. Can't really fit a 240 watt GPU for 30,000 NOKs in this chair to have this future.
Yeah.
But you can probably for 300 NOK upsell of an AI part.
Yeah.
You don't need the massive compute.
No.
You're not running OpenAI's ChatGPT in your chair. You're using it in a very limited
very
manner.
specific.
Very specific manner. Be it a trading bot, be it a health armband that's going to call the right smart device in your house and say, okay, it will register that you're waking up, so it communicates to your coffee machine, right? Start to grind, start to brew. So that by the time you're out of the shower, the coffee is already done. Those type of future scenarios are
I like that future scenario.
More realistic.
Yeah.
If I got up and my coffee machine kicked on, I'd be very happy.
Alrighty, guys. So I think that, but then to the last, I would really like to hear a little bit about the journey. I know this is, I'm seeing, years and years, and well, it's becoming more and more mature. But tell us a little bit. How has it been since 2020? And
oh dear Lord, there's been a lot of growth. Me and Ola were just talking about this and how you like to go back and look at the old annual reports. I mean, just from a business perspective, we've matured significantly. But I mean, the journey has been a lot of grit. I mean, it's even
that's Jensen. It's super important.
I'll tell you what, he could hire us in a heartbeat. I mean, I don't think anybody's been beat down as much as us, because this journey, anytime you have good news, it was one step forward, 10 steps back. But it's been a lovely journey, and I love where we're at today. We got to finally show our product, this year and go forward.
Did you used to have a cup, a SUSP laying around, so just in case you got another ball kick?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we were always getting kicked in the balls. I'm not gonna lie.
Curveball after curveball, but
it's a tough industry. I mean, we're talking about billions and billions of transistors on the final design, and it's
billions, not billions or billions.
Oh, billions, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's hard. It's advanced stuff that you're working with, and But some of the things also, like when you're reading around like the market, or when people, what's their opinion about what you are developing, and it seems like also there is some, people don't understand the scale, maturity, and you have to move through prototypes and things like this before, you are at the final chip. Is there something you want to say about that?
What do you mean, like just
Well, it's almost like
the
having-
knowledge base?
like a impression that the chiplets that you set out, the tile one
Yeah.
tests that you wanted to do with the MPV, just
Oh, yeah.
This thing, huh?
yeah, this thing, yes. So it's almost like some people thought that, well, this is the full commercial chip, and
No, it wasn't that. It was just our
misunderstandings.
novel IP that goes into the final ASIC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, clients are impatient. The financial markets are also impatient.
Yeah.
And it's been both a blessing and a burden to be listed, I think, in this time frame that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
Blessing is that, for instance, when you need to raise capital, you have the best tool out there.
Yeah.
The burden being that having to consume and spend so much time about contemplating what went wrong or what took longer, and communicating that in an accurate manner that's neither too bearish nor hiding anything is
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we gained some experience in that field.
Yeah, I think some of the larger houses, the chip is done when it is done, but you don't have that luxury. You have to tell every bit along the way a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that
I would say, going back to your 3 to 5 year plan, I think that will, significantly change the outlook of the company when we're delivering our first products. And then you don't have to worry about this in and out because we're already going to be delivering a product, mining ourselves, hopefully doing, selling in the AI industry or, partnering with the JV and just expanding out in this web of revenue streams that we could go after.
Mm.
You won't have that because we have been basically a single product, glorified startup since we raised the capital and listed. I mean, we, and everybody's got to see that story of all our ups, all our downs. But I mean, being in the blockchain industry, especially in the ASIC, hardware manufacturer, being an ASIC hardware manufacturer, it's extremely beneficial now that you look 20/20 hindsight, because you had bad times, you had good times, but it's always transparent to the market. And that's what we want to continue to do as we grow into self-mining and everything else. So,
yeah.
It's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah,
and I can't believe it's finished.
It's not
It's
finished.
just getting started. Actually, but finish that milestone was a.
But just in time
Huge
for
win.
the holiday season.
First lap,
So,
Ben. First lap is complete.
first
Yes,
lap.
correct.
So, but what you're going to do in Easter, you're going to have a little breather and relax perhaps before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be tanning in the snow.
All right.
Yeah, mountain for me.
Yeah. Okay, but then let's talk a little bit to the. So you said, we touched on the warrants exercise period that's coming up. So today is first day in the pricing period.
Yes.
And that is lasting till 31st of March. So then there will be a notice to the market on what is the price you can buy. Well, if you have a warrant, you can on a one-to-one basis buy a local share.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the price is then the average of the three.
I want to wind it back a bit because I think, some of the listeners might not even know that they own these warrants. If you partook in the capital raise in last year, the last issue, you also were given a certain amount of warrants. I believe it's 3.145 or so. It's 5 digits of the amount of shares you subscribed to back then.
Yeah.
And we're in the pricing period we're talking about because the warrants are a bit different than just a straight up warrant. It has a minimum subscription price at 51
øre, yeah.
51 øre, or you get a 35% discount to the volume weighted average price of the shares being traded today, Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
There's 3 days of setting that pricing option, and at the end of that pricing period, we'll very quickly announce to the market what the subscription price per warrant will be. It's either 51.3 or some other discounted part of this VWAP period that we are now in.
Okay. Yeah. So this is then from today till the 31st, and there will be a notice to the market on what that subscription price is. The 31st, and then what happened the 1st of April, that start of the...
That's when the subscription period starts. That's when you can go to preferably utilize the VPS system. It's online. You can subscribe to shares for that subscription price.
Yeah, I think more it will come. We will have a notice.
I think there's about 10 notices or so.
Yeah, but we will have on that particular, when that starts, there will come a notice that will have a link. When you press that, you go to Pareto, which is the manager. Yeah. And there, when you subscribe, it will be run by an engine, a VPS, basically. Or
Sure. An alternative to that would be to print out the subscription form that's also will be distributed and send it back to Pareto with a postal or courier, or you can show up at your office as well and share up.
So how long time do you have to subscribe?
The subscription period ends on the 15th.
Yeah.
At the 15th of April, 16:30 sharp. The subscription period ends, and any warrants that you haven't either sold or used to subscribe for will be worthless.
Yeah, so it's very important that if you have a warrant, then you decide what to do with it before that time. But there is something also the 9th of April, which is...
That's what I was going to intercept you on.
Yeah.
This warrants are listed on the Oslo Stock Exchange today, and have been so since last year.
Yeah.
They will be delisted for trading on the stock exchange on the 9th.
Yeah. It's under the ticker LOKOS.
LOKOS.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to sell your subscription right, then you'd have to do so before end of trading on the 9th.
Yeah.
After that, you can use them to subscribe, but there will be no facilitation from the exchange to sell it. You can sell them privately, peer-to-peer.
But there's about a 2-day turnaround for transfer if you do it too soon.
Okay. But if you subscribe them, and the last possibility to subscribe is 16:30, the 15th of April. And the payment is the 21st of April, right? And
that is a business that the shareholders some of them might have a special relationship with Pareto, and therefore, we just debited them on their, account. But,
yes. But then basically, and then we will have some internal to do. And those should be approximately then out on people's accounts the 27th of April.
That's expected date now, but we are dependent on the registry in Brønnøysund, the auditor, and confirming capital and so forth. It also depends if there's a lot of subscription but people never paid, then it might become a challenge for Pareto to cover any differences in the capital required to print the shares.
Yeah. No, but that's good. But last one on that, there is 54 or 55 million warrants like this, right?
Close to 55, 54.8, I think.
And then, so then, but then there will be multiple notices coming out in a series, very well planned, and that will also take people through the process if they want to subscribe and with the necessary information in those notices.
Yeah, I don't think the listeners should try and base their strategy off of what we're talking about right now, but you don't need to remember all these dates. You can follow share news, if you'd like to call it that, then the announcements on NewsWeb or
for example,
our own webpage, or you get continuously updated on the process. I think the only main date or most important date today is the 9th of April. By then you have to decide.
Okay.
Sell or subscribe.
Yes.
Well, as of now, you got plenty of time to conclude your own game plan.
Yeah. All right. I think that was we have covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah. There's only one thing I'd like to talk about. You know what that is.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Because I've been bombarded by shareholders, and that's Hodl.
Okay.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we really don't. We wanted to keep this in the background because Lokotech's going to have our own treasury when we begin self-mining and stuff. I know this is in the future, but for Hodl, we're looking to have a separate company that will be based out of Estonia, and for tax purposes, because we don't want to be taxed on like a taxable event when you trade and when you're doing a portfolio rebalance. Because what we're wanting to accomplish is have a treasury that's based off of the majority of it going to Litecoin, and then the remaining balance going to Dogecoin and all the other Scrypt coins that have active participation, decent followers, and are legit projects. And that'll come down to us to make those decisions. But a lot of them we've listed already, and we'd like to see the whole ecosystem benefit from it, and because it kind of has the comparable synergies of Lokotech with Hodl, because if Hodl, we start absorbing the liquidity in these coins, the all underlying assets should strengthen and become more popular, which increases the daily revenue of our miners as well, because we want to be a good actor and not only support these communities, but back them, try to have conferences and all that stuff to just get the word out, because it's a community of cryptos that will push the Scrypt algorithm forward, and we believe that this will be one of the better avenues to be able to accomplish that. And then you want to talk more about the financial derivative that we've worked on and why that synergy works with Lokotech?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
being a hardware manufacturer,
it hasn't been decided upon yet, and we're trying to get preemptive answers from the Estonian tax authorities on that specific topic. But it's trying to detach the whole idea of hash rate being a service, and it's pretty close to how gold is being traded today. You have different derivatives, but in our case, it's a contract for difference where you instead of owning the hardware, hosting, and what have you, you settle in Litecoin in order to have an hash rate settlement financially, rather than receiving the actual hash rate to produce which coins you want. So we have a no hassle type of instrument. And why we venture into that idea is that PowerPool hosting, and our own self-mining facilities could then we could use this tool or this treasury to recycle the capital bound up in the machinery. So for a long-term treasury strategy, it's a matter of risk versus how many coins do you expect to get back versus the price today. So if you know that you are going to hold X amount of coin for eternity, those contracts can be quite lucrative to look at. But it's additional to the more traditional yield generating activities.
But I saw that
all input options are.
I saw recently in US hashing for Bitcoin, Dogecoin, more of the blockchains is considered it was like a list, considered like a commodity. So it will be like the hash power, you say, it can be traded like a commodity.
I mean, it is already trading like a commodity. Luxor, for instance, has this hash rate index measuring SHA profitability or value of hash rate for SHA. And I think NiceHash has a platform where you can rent hash rate for a while. But our differentiator is that we never actually own the hash rate. We settle financially with the counterpart. What did that hash rate produce according to the index over that period of time? All operational problems is miners. You don't need to hassle. You can then.
I mean, and then
the contract.
Well, and then plus what's good about that is, that's the biggest risk is actually the miners themselves. But what's good about that is when it's internally, we already know the operations of Lokotech, or we know the operations of PowerPool. So that helps de-risk that until we find, credible miners that would be willing to partake in that and or offload risk.
Yeah, but when you talked about Estonia, it's because jurisdiction there is, well ahead of.
It's very favorable, especially when you have like a self-balancing or manually balancing portfolio, all based off market cap, for example. I mean, when you're balancing it, it's not a taxable event, and there shouldn't be a taxable event until you take it out.
Well, it's also nice just to operate from a place where you know what the rules are.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like investing through an OSC instead of it's privately. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't get taxed on what you make.
Yeah.
Until you realize it, like to fiat.
All right, that was a nice touch on Odolite. I noticed that in the report, and of course also, I know being the chair that this is stuff that I've matured for a long while, and I guess now that we have done all the heavy lifting on getting the design ready and out for tape out, then basically, is it to be expected that you will be more visible and around initiating stuff? Is that a fair assumption? Because you have been hard and quiet work now for many months, yeah?
I think that's a fair assumption. I mean, it also, I think, has to do with us starting dry runs early and getting dragged into that process. So, going up and very narrowly focusing on that project, that vertical of ours.
Yeah.
So, I hope that we'll be more visible. We have a couple of weeks now that we are still, waiting for applications to be approved and such. But that is done. And when the ground falls up in northern Norway, activity levels should increase dramatically.
Yeah, we haven't actually touched on the stuff. You have exciting stuff also in Kautokeino, but we have been going for 1.5 hours. And maybe we have exhausted the listeners, but also it's just to reach out by mail or by phone to Jola or Ben, or even just to post at lokotech.no, or even to me. So then, we are there for more information if needed, and don't forget the subscription period that is coming up now to make a decision what you want to do with it if you have it.
And don't forget to keep an eye out for the festivities.
Yeah, for the festivities, yes.
So that'll be getting planned, and then I know me and Ola have talked about having a swag shop for a long time. So it's funny to see that
launch of the swag shop as well.
Yeah, it could be a good. Yeah, actually,
that is coming on.
That's going to be part of the tickets.
Okay. So you're gonna publish that on X? Or?
Yeah, I'll probably publish that on X or whatnot. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Even the Facebook chat group.
Yeah. Next Friday.
That was a joke for all the listeners. An internal one.
Yeah, internal one. Yeah. Yes.
It might show up in the swag shop though.
Yeah. Yes. Alrighty, I think we have covered most, and with that, I think we start to call it an end. Unless Ubaid have something final that you want to interject before we are off.
There is a question here. Where can we buy the Lokotech hoodies?
Yeah, no, we saw that. That'll be coming out.
Yeah,
I'll have some other shirts and hoodies and just company swag. We've been waiting for this milestone to be reached before we open this. So, but it'll be coming out soon, more sooner than later.
I guess you can share also on the X account on that, or yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the information will will come out. We're going to put an insider notice out on the swag shop.
You heard it all.
New hoodie.
I'm back into fashion now. Huh?
Yeah. So they'll be coming though.
Well, I like the fashion industry. A lot of females. A lot more females there than here.
Yeah, but we are working on that. So yeah. Alrighty then. Okay. So in that case, Zubaid, I think we are done, and yeah.
Yeah. For the viewers, if you want to watch the recording, you can watch it on Lokotech group.com IR page. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for facilitating, Obaid.
Yeah. Thank you so
Have
much.
a great Easter, everyone.
Yes.
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 Thank you.